Remember when you could walk into a grocery store with a $100 bill and fill up your shopping cart? I do, and it really wasn't that long ago when that was possible. Food prices over the last few years have risen about 20% in general, with some items like beef and even pet foods have risen about 50%. Inflation the last couple of years has been really bad, and with everything going on right now with the tariffs and all the uncertainty, it's entirely possible that we see even more of this in 2025 and possibly even 2026. I recently did a video about the foods to buy now because of these tariffs and the uncertainty. And in this video, I want to sort of expand on that and discuss more of the foods that we should be stockpiling to save money each month, to sort of ride the storm out, so to speak. The more we have on hand if and when these prices go up, the less we'll have to buy when they do peak or when they do rise. And as I mentioned in that video, prepping isn't always about gas masks and the complete destruction, nuclear bombs, and things like that. Extended events like the Great Depression, the pandemic, and the topic we're talking about today are just as important and require a different strategy. Over the years, I can't tell you how many times that having a good supply of food storage has come in handy just in my everyday life. And later on, I'm also going to list some of the prices that I paid for some of these because I want a record of what the prices were at the time of this video. And then in about 3 months or so, I'm going to record another video and we'll see how much these prices have actually risen. You get an idea on the news, they'll tell you this or that, but I want a real localized idea about how much prices are rising in my area. Then I'll probably do a video in a year from now and maybe 2 years from now just to torture myself to see how much these have risen over the course of time. And also, I'm curious, how much do you pay for, let's say, 1 pound of ground beef, the 80/20 ground beef? I'm curious to see what the price difference is in your area compared to my area. Leave a comment below and let everyone else know what the price you pay is, and we'll see what the difference is all around the United States and even the world. So with that, let's go ahead and get into some of these foods that we can, or some of the things we can do to save money in the coming months, and some of the foods that we should be stockpiling. And I suppose I'll start off with the prepper pantry staples, right? The flour, beans, and rice. You hear about these on a lot of different prepper videos. These are really nice because you can store them for 25 years as long as they're packaged properly in Mylar bags inside of 5-gallon buckets. These will last for 25 years and are a really easy way to bulk up your food storage. However, there is a caveat to this because it's not good for everyone. Flour, you can store 100 pounds of flour, but if you never use flour, you're gonna have to throw that away. Now, flour is low cost enough, this is not a huge deal. And rice, the same thing. It's low cost enough, it's not a huge deal. Rice, most people tend to use a little more often. Rice makes a great filler for any sort of meal. But the beans, on the other hand, are a little bit different. A lot of people get the canned beans. So storing 100, 200 pounds of dried beans is not a good idea if you don't know how to, rehydrate those beans, or if you don't have the time to let those beans soak overnight and then cook them for a couple hours. It's a whole lot easier to just grab that can of beans and throw it into a crock pot or something. Now, the reason I mention all of these, though, is because they can save you quite a bit of money. The flour, if you make your own bread, and it doesn't take very long, it is a lot harder than just opening up a loaf of bread, but it may cost 50 cents to $1 loaf of bread, depending on how much you paid for flour and what type you're making, rather than the $3, $4, $5, and even some breads are $6 these days. So you can save quite a bit of money there, depending on how much bread you go through. Rice is a great filler for a lot of meals, and it's really low cost. So you can make rice instead of, say, au gratin potatoes or all these other fancy things that might cost a little bit more, right? You can save some money by using rice with a lot of your meals rather than some of these other things. And beans, it's the same idea. You can put these with different meals and mix things up a little bit. Dried beans especially are a lot less expensive than the canned beans. They can be half as much or even a third of as much as the canned counterparts. They do take a little bit longer. You have to actually prepare these beans, but you can save a whole lot of money. A can of beans cost $1 to $2, where a bag of, a 2-pound bag of black beans cost $2 or $3, but it's equal to probably 7 or 8 cans of these beans. So you can see you can save quite a bit of money there. And then you've got the milk and drinks. And depending on your family makeup, milk may or may not be a huge issue. Here at our house, when we had the kids here, we were constantly going through milk. Now that the kids are gone, we don't go through as much milk as we used to in the past. So we've come up with a few different options. You've got the cartons of shelf-stable milks, which will last unrefrigerated for a few months. And then once you open that up, you need to refrigerate it. You've got a few different kinds of these, but these taste almost as good as regular milk. You can tell a little bit of a difference. And then you've also got the evaporated milk, which you can just add some water to this, and it's a little sweeter and it's a little bit different than your normal vitamin D milk. But you put this in cereal, and even if you're just drinking it, it's really not that bad. Like I said, we don't use milk as often as we used to, but it's still important to have for different recipes that we might be making and different things that we use around the house, and every once in a while, a bowl of cereal. You've also got the powdered milk, which is a good option for, if you're mixing it with something. Say you put it in cereal or you've got a recipe. Drinking powdered milk straight is not the greatest, although Morning Moo is pretty good. But it is a great way to have that shelf-stable milk for years and years on end. The evaporated milk and the powdered milk are the two that are going to last the longest. And you've also got drinks. And in a disaster or an emergency situation, you don't want to just be drinking water every day. That's going to get pretty boring. And if you are looking at saving money, if the prices of things are really rising, say aluminum rises, which means pop is going to rise, maybe other things rise as well, these powdered drinks are a great way to still have that, but are going to be a whole lot less expensive than some of the juice jugs and things like that. Next, we've got the big one, and this is meats and protein. And this is something where the price usually, it always rises a little bit here and there, but the question becomes how much and when. And it's really uncertain, I think, at this point about what the meat prices, specifically beef, is going to be, because the tariffs that that are put on Australia and Mexico, we get some of our beef from them, could have an impact on this. Or we could make more of a focus of the ranchers here in the United States. Instead of exporting, we keep more here. So it's really up in the air as far as how beef prices are going to be affected. But with that being said, I think it is important that we do try to prepare a little bit for rising prices in the meat, because this is where a lot of our money goes and a lot of the savings could be. You've got a few different options as far as storage. It's really tough to store a whole lot of meat if you don't have a chest freezer. Maybe go out and pick up a chest freezer for a couple $100, and you can store a lot of ground beef and things like that. Here at the house, I have a Harvest Right freeze dryer, which makes it really easy to cook, 5-10 pounds of ground beef, and then I can freeze dry that. And I always have ground beef freeze dried that'll last 25 years. I just open one up for if I'm making burritos or a hamburger helper or whatever we're making. I have that ground beef. If you don't have that, you're going to have to freeze that. Or you could even can it. If you know how to home can, it's a perfect way to preserve some of that meat. And if you don't, maybe it's good to learn just for the meat aspect of this. And the other option that's probably most used in preparedness is the canned foods. You've got the Keystone beef, Keystone shredded beef, Keystone ground beef, Keystone pork, chicken, and turkey. The Keystone ground beef is not a bad option, and it doesn't taste really bad, but it is about twice the price that you would pay for regular ground beef. Now, on the surface, the can says it's over a pound and 3/4, I believe, for $8, $9, and then a pound of 80/20 ground beef is about $6. So you would think that it's almost just as good a deal or better, but it's actually not, because once you cook and drain that, you're only getting about a pound of ground beef out of that Keystone beef. But this will be interesting to see how much the price of this rises. If ground beef goes up, how much does this go up? And in the future, if ground beef goes up $1 per pound and you've got 40, 50 pounds stored up, you can save quite a bit of money just by not having to go to the grocery store until those prices come down. You've also got other canned meats, which are important. You've got the canned tunas, the canned chicken. All of those are a great way to build up your food storage and items that you may want to start bulking up on now, just to sort of hedge your bets coming into the next few months. You just never know how much these prices are going to rise. And having some of these in your stockpile could mean that you can, like I said in the beginning, ride the storm out until those prices come back down, and then you can replenish your supply. And then you've got the fruits and vegetables that we could see those rise as well, because we do get some of our fruits and vegetables from other countries. Another reason why you could see these rise, especially the canned fruits and vegetables, is because of the price of aluminum and the process altogether. In that video I did last week, I talked about how there's a lot of moving parts to this. It's not just the fruits and vegetables, it's the whole process and all the different pieces and parts that go into making that can of peaches or the can of green beans. And this is something that, because of the pause on tariffs, the 10% tariffs, we do have a little bit of a window right now where we could build up our food storage a little bit on some of these canned foods that we use quite often. Say whether that is the canned peas, the canned corn, the fruit cocktail, whatever you use a lot of, you may want to stock up on some of that right now. That way you don't have to pay, $3 a can or whatever it might go up to in the future, and you can wait for those to go back down. You've also got the frozen fruits and vegetables, which could also see a price rise, although I think the canned vegetables and fruits and vegetables may see a bigger rise. But you can also stock up on these fruits and vegetables. Like I said, you would need that freezer or a harvest right to where you could freeze dry those foods. But you can stock up a little bit now and just keep those stocked up and just see where these prices go in the future. But I think the canned fruits and vegetables are important to sort of pay attention to in the coming months, as well as all the canned foods, basically. I mentioned the canned meats before, but you've also got soups and stews and different types of meals in a can is what I call them, the corned beef and hash and all the different things that may go up in price. So whatever you use a lot of, you may want to spend a little bit extra and make sure you have a really good stockpile of all of that. And then you've got the shelf-stable foods, which are the typical pantry foods. You've got the pastas, you've got the spaghetti sauce, the Alfredo sauce, the rolled oats, the boxes of cereal, even boxed meals like Hamburger Helper and things like that. All of these shelf-stable foods, we could see the prices rise in the next few months or the next year or so. So it's important that we have a lot of these backed up. If you use a lot of spaghetti on a weekly basis, you may want to make sure you go to one of the big box stores, a Sam's Club, or somewhere, maybe even online, where you can get a good deal and buy in bulk with some of these. Same with the pasta sauce and the Alfredo sauce. If you use a lot of these, you may as well stock up now, because the odds are these are going to go up in price. Like I said earlier, some of these may be just a little bit, but some of them could go up quite a bit. We just never know. So I think it's important that we stockpile all of these things that we use on a daily basis as much as possible heading into the next few months and see where everything takes us from there. So those are a few of the things that I think that if we pay attention to those in the coming months, we can save ourselves a little bit of money and make this rocky road that is possible, and we never know what's going to happen, what makes this rocky road that is possible coming up a little bit more manageable. And I did mention in the beginning, I wanted to go over some prices that I paid for some of these foods that I talked about today. And then in a few months, I'm going to do an update video and let you know how much the prices have risen for me specifically, not just how much the news is telling me the prices have risen. And if you have anything you want me to add to this for the next video I do, the update video, make sure and leave those in the comments below. But with this, I've got the Keystone meats that I don't use very often because, like I said, I have my Harvest Right freeze dryer and I will freeze dry the ground beef and beef shreds. But the Keystone meats, the shredded beef is $9.88 right now, and the ground beef is $8.82 right now. And like I said, with this ground beef, once you get rid of the fat and you heat this up, it turns into just a little bit over a pound. So you're paying $8.82 per pound. Not the greatest way to save money, but if you don't have any other way to preserve that meat for long term, that may be the option you need to go. So for right now, we'll see how much this rises in the next few months, but you're looking at $8, $9, or $10 for these Keystone meats. And then you've got canned tuna. I got a 4-pack of the canned tuna, and this canned tuna was $4.34. So you're looking at about $1 a can, $1.10 per can of this Star-Kissed tuna. And one that I'm really curious about is the fresh ground beef. Right now, the 80/20 ground beef is about $6 per pound. And it wasn't so long ago that this was about $4 per pound. So we'll see how much this goes up in the future. And then you've got the ground pork that we use quite a bit in different recipes. We use the ground pork with the rice and some adobo sauce. We use the ground pork for some Chinese recipes. But 1.5 pounds of this ground pork cost me $5.34. So this is about $3.56 per pound. We will see pork is usually, when the prices of beef and everything goes up, pork is usually one of those things that maintains a pretty good price. So over the last couple of years, we've gone more to using pork in recipes than we do with ground beef. You can see it's almost half the price of ground beef. Next, I got some of the black beans, and I got canned black beans and dry black beans. The canned black beans, the Cooners that I got, are $1.28 per can at this point. So with the aluminum prices and tariffs and things like that, we'll see in a few months how much this goes up. And then I got the 2-pound bag of dry black beans, which are $2.63. And I want to see how much these go up compared to the black beans, because these aren't, you don't have to worry about the canning process or anything like that. But these probably do get imported. So we'll see how much these go up as well. We'll see which one goes up higher, the canned or the dried beans. And I also did some green beans as well, and I wanted to try the canned green beans as well as the frozen green beans. The canned green beans cost me about $1.50, $1.48 per can at this point. So we'll see how much that rises in the future. And the frozen green beans, which is about 10 ounces, which isn't, a little bit less than what you would get in the can of green beans, but those are $1.27. So in the future, we will see which one of these. I have a feeling it's going to be the green beans, the canned green beans that rise more. But in the future, we will see how much these have risen. And then finally, I got some rolled oats, and I didn't worry about the bulk packages or anything like that. I just got one of these small, regular round things of rolled oats, and these cost me $3.87. Rolled oats are one of those things, like I mentioned in the beginning, the prepper favorites, the beans, the rice, the flour, and rolled oats as well. If stored properly in Mylar bags and buckets, store for 25 years and some of them even longer. So they are something that's good to have. But again, with the rolled oats, you are going to want to have maybe some of that stored milk and some of that stored sugar, because it's a nice filling meal, but it doesn't, it's not all that flavorful, just plain old rolled oats. So those are the 10 foods that I got, and I want to see how much those rise in price in the coming months. I'll do a video here in a few months, and then, like I said, we'll go a year down the line, possibly even 2, and see how we are doing with that. But there are a lot of different ways where we can try to save a few bucks here and there, and it all adds up. Watch your pennies and the dollars take care of themselves, basically. Every little thing that we do may not seem like a whole lot individually, but collectively, all of these things will add up over the month, and we can save $100, $200 per month just by paying attention to what we're buying and how we're preparing our meals and what we are preparing. With that, I am done today. I appreciate y'all joining in today. Make sure, if you're not subscribed, make sure and subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell icon to get notified anytime I upload a new video. I do videos about once a week or so. But with that, take care and prepare, everyone. We will talk to you later.